Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope that you can see me. Good evening. If you can hear me, just give a thumbs up. If you can hear me, just give a thumbs up. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua, for joining. Um, I hope you had a great day. You could use the comment section, comment the chat feature to share. I would crave your indulgence. Do me a favor, share this meeting link with someone that you know needs it, right? Share this meeting link with someone you know needs it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our host will be joining anytime, any moment from now. I see that you awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is this your first time? Is this your first time joining us? Oh, you've joined once before. Fantastic. Lovely to have you join again. I hope that the first time you joined was worth your while. Thank you so much. I see that our guest for today, Jeffrey, is here. Um, like I said initially, you can just share this link. I'm doing that myself, trying to remind people. I see you, Chioma. Chioma, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Lovely to have you. Thank you, Jeffrey. Please do me a favor and share this meeting invite with as many people as you can find on social media. As many people as you can find on the www dot world. No, no, no. No, okay, like this. You know, we'll go because see.
I came back far. You know, give us one do.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Say that again.
I say, you know, give us more music.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So this, like I said, like
While
I
we
said to you
wait.
in the chat, like I said to you in the chat, this is a new laptop, like it's a brand new laptop. So there's literally nothing on it. I had to download the Zoom app before. I quickly had to download the Zoom
Oh,
app before I guess. before I joined. So there's nothing on it except the Windows, except the Windows OS on it. So I'm still trying to find my way around it, trying to see how, even understand how the webcam works and everything. So I doubt that there's mu music here, but if you can be the DJ for tonight, just for a few minutes, that's fine.
Yes, if you insist, if you insist.
Right, thank you.
Voila.
Yeah. So let's see. Thank you, Joshua. I know that Chioma is a regular. Chioma joins for every session. She had hardly missed anyone. So thank you, Chioma. Thank you for joining. So Jeffrey, whenever you're ready, with the music, of course.
You might not. I'm playing from my laptop, but I don't think it sounds speaker.
Oh, okay, okay. Maybe because you're not sharing yet. But it's fine. We'll give it another.
Yeah.
We'll give it a couple more minutes. I see Bridget has joined. The room is gradually filling up. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. I hope you had a great day, everyone. Um, Ginger me,
I
give me
did. Hi,
energy, give me
Bridget.
gist. How
Hi,
you
Joshua.
doing? How did
Hold
your
on.
week go?
I'm the only one hearing this
Don't give me
music. Let me just mute.
don't give me the usual. Don't say hectic. Don't say hectic, please. So just to be sure that you can still see me. Awesome. All right. So right, to see that you guys are engaging in the comments. Let me go and see what I'm missing. Bridget says, hey Kimba, hey Jeffrey, hey Bridget. Hi, number one fan, no shame. Number one fan in the world, baddest. Uh, my week, good on my end, fantastic. Hectic week. Chioma, you're giving the classic response. You don't want to give us gist. Anyways, thank you for joining. Tonight is going to be amazing. I see that more people are joining. We have Nkechi. Guys, give it up for Nkechi. Nkechi is joining us. Nkechi, welcome. We're happy to have you here.
Hi, Nkechi.
Um, yeah, we're happy to have you. If today is your first time of worshiping with us, can you signify by raising of your hands? Um, but like I was saying, tonight is going to be exciting. I'm really excited about the conversation, more so because of the caliber of our guest speaker tonight, personified. And who better to speak about products than Jeffrey? It's indeed a real pleasure to have him. Guys, you don't know what I did for you. You don't know what I've done for you. You know, to be able to get somebody like Jim. You don't know what I've done for you. You should pay tithes in my name. Anyways, thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure that you give us a little bit about your background, about your story when you get to speak. I would just want us to do a little housekeeping. Have any points um, or if there's anything that sticks out to you, you could put it in the comments. I see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. As much as as much as is possible, you want to mute your mic throughout the session. There will be a time for question and answers, ample time that is. So take note of the questions. If you fear that you may forget the questions, then you probably want to put them in the comment section, and we'll get and comment in the chats box, and we'll get to it in due course. Anything else I'm missing? Anything else I'm missing? As much as you can, like I said, keep your mics muted so that you don't disrupt the session. Just so that we're not too much. One more time, if you somebody that you know needs it, is either they're building a new product, building a new, offering a service, trying to productize, building even a movement. As long as you're building something that you think somebody needs, this is the conversation that you should be part of. So invite somebody to be a part of this. Let's fill up the room. Let more people get to benefit from what we're going to discuss tonight. And I assure you it's in time. Thank you so much. I see you, Honorable Taiwo Akinseye is in our midst. Thank you very much. He's the founder of Centrac. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you for joining us. We are honored to have you in our midst. All right.
Tracksend.
Tracksend, rather. Tracksend. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. So without much ado, I would yield the mic now to our guest. Please give him a resounding round of applause as he comes on stage to take over. Give him a resounding round of applause, guys. Come on. A resounding round of applause. Make it loud. Make it very loud. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Fire, fire, fire. Thank you. Thank you. Finish him with your love. Finish him with your love. Thank you, Jeffrey. Over to you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ikemba, for having me. And it's really nice to meet everyone. For everyone joining, thank you so much. I think we can still take some time out to share with as many people as possible just before we jump into the meat of it. And even if you're not able to, if you have the link, you can share. If you're not able to get the link, just ask for it and it will be shared in the chats. Ikem, I'm going to need access to share my screen. If you can just help me with that.
Sure, working on that.
Awesome. All right. While that is going on, I just want to personally say hi to everyone on the call. Hi, Joshua. Hi, Chioma, Bridget, Anita, Tejuri, Taiwo. I would like to get to know everyone. If you could just, I'm guessing that we're all based in Lagos, or sorry, we're all in Nigeria. So, but if you're not, or if you are, you could still just leave a comment in the chat, stating your location. Hi, Evelyn. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, like I was saying, just let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm curious. Yes. Hi, Teju from Lagos. Okay, hi, Bridget from Lagos. Yes, please keep them coming while I wait for Ikemba to give me access. Please people share me beg him. Shoma is joining from United States of Alimosho. Wow, amazing. Hi, thank you. I asked, what's the weather there like? I'm curious. Anita is joining from Nigeria, yes, Abia State to be precise. Joshua is joining from Abeokuta. Hi, Joshua, once again. Wow, this Salimo show. I'm curious to know what kind of climatic conditions there are there. Because how can it be snowing there at this time of the year? Okay. Ikemba, I just want to, I see that you've given me access. I'm going to try and share my screen now. So I want everyone to confirm if they can see my screen and then let me know what they can see. All right, Ikemba says you can see my screen. I'm hoping it's the correct presentation. You should be able to see a slide that says designing what people want, designing products. Um, Once again, thank you very much for joining. And today we're just going to be talking about what it means to design what people want. And it's a session that was curated specifically for everyone who is um, designing or creating something. Let me use that phrase. So if you're here and I'm a designer by nature, and I'll get to all of that. But if you're here, you're not here by mistake. Everyone on this call would definitely have something to benefit from. And so I'll just get started with a little bit about me. Um, First thing I want you to know is that I like to run and I enjoy every minute of it. I also listen to a lot of music, and it's almost like there's always a tune playing in my head. So I have my own theme songs for different moments, different moods, and all. But when I'm working, I love to listen to very calm, lo-fi music. Um, but another thing is that I also like to help people gain confidence in their creative ability to solve problems. Especially if it involves creating values for others. And I currently lead a team, an amazing team at Urban Effects, which is an experience design agency. And in the past, I've worked as a product designer at companies like InterSwitch, Reliance Health, and Andela. Other things that are not here, one of which is that I also serve as a resident pastor at an amazing community called the Tribe Nation. Some of my people are here, so I had to put that shout out. And then whenever people ask me what I do, for those that don't already know, I do my best. And this evening, my plan is to do my best to help you gain a lot more confidence in your creative pursuits. I would like to hear from you. So what do you do? What's your title? And then quickly. So just say what you do, and then underneath your favorite app right now. What app excites you? What app delights you? What app gives you joy? Um, it could be your OPay app, it could be your CUDA app, it could be your Bolt app, or it could be a tool, all right? It could be a Fire Stick remote, it could be a chair, right? It doesn't have to be digital, just something, a product. What product excites you right now? And then if anyone is bold enough, you can take the mic and just, in 1 minute or less, tell us why it's your favorite tool uh, at this moment. I'm waiting for the responses to come in. One of my favorite tools right now is it's a pocket. It has a plier, it has a screwdriver, so it opens up to so many things. It has a knife, and I just enjoy holding it, even if I don't have anything to fix. It just feels cool to have. It's the kind of thing that you just want to keep around you. So I have it in my house. There was a period where I used to carry it in my car with me all the time until somebody said, this thing is like a weapon because of how so now it's in my house. But I love it so much because I enjoy using it. I just like to have it around. Makes me feel like I'm handy. Right. Okay. Tao says he's solar inverter. Chioma says her favorite tool is her phone. Wow, that's a whole tool with multiple tools. Interesting. Solar inverter because light must be, Abi. Um, yeah. If you have any more, just keep them coming. Before I move on. All right. Um, so let's just get a few statistics out of the way. Um, I was hoping to get, your titles, your roles, what you do, just to know what positions we are. Okay, some responses have come in. Wow. Okay. Let me quickly read that out. Um, Tej says she's an architect and her phone is her favorite tool. ChatGPT is also her favorite app, and she also really loves her fan. Please, you're going to have to give us more details than that. What's so special about this fan? What's the make? What's the model? Is it Oraimo? Is it what's those olden days say? And then uh, Chioma says her favorite app is Trove and AfriVestor. Ikemba says this calculator on his phone. Wow. Well, that's I don't even know what the current the exchange rate in this current economy, but it must be a special one. Bridget says her journals. That's her favorite too. Nice, awesome, awesome. Benjamin says my phone. Anita says, okay, thank you so much for stating what you do, Chioma, Anita. Um, okay. Tedri says her fans brand is Ox. And it acts as white noise for her. Wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And the reason why I asked this question is because these are all products that we enjoy using and we love to have with us, but they were once concepts or ideas that people had, and they have been birthed into something that we can interact with in a tangible form, right? Thank you so much for sharing. I want to just quickly touch on this. A reality check, it looks very stark, but at the end of the day, it's just data, and data is neither good nor bad. It just needs to be acted upon, right? So, this says that 90% of startups fail within their first decade, and then 40% of new products vanish from shelves within 2 years. And then it also says that less than 50% of product ideas actually improve the metrics they are supposed to improve. What that means is that ideas are, you know, exciting and there are assumptions that can be had, but only half of those ideas actually really do what they were intended to do at the first start. I recently watched a video that spoke about how certain products were released and people use them in a totally different way. A good example is Listerine. I'm sure we all know the brand Listerine. It's mouthwash, right? It was actually not a mouthwash to begin with. It was initially a cleaning agent. The way you have wind or jig or all these disinfectants that you can use to wipe surfaces, that was their gargle this thing in my mouth and spit it out. My breath is going to be fresh. Oh. And they completely used it for something else. And so the company had to pivot. That's a whole other story. Um, then the last point is that most failures aren't due to bad technology. They're usually due to lack of customers or finding the right customers. And there's something called a product market fit, which I would not get into today, so I don't geek up on you. Um, but I'm just going to highlight a few more things. First of which is that everybody, everybody is a designer. And I say this because based on my definition of what a designer is or who a designer is or what design is, it's possible that everyone in each moment of their life gets to contribute to shaping something. I once wrote an article that spoke about how we all have the capacity or we were made to create, right? And these are one of the things that guide my philosophy around how to create, how to build, how to design. So how is everyone a designer? I'll explain. For me, the definition is that design is the intent behind a process, a product, or a tool. Whatever it is that is being put out there, as long as there's a careful, it might even be careless, as long as there's an intent behind it, it is being designed. So this means that it could go poorly or it could go amazingly. Either ways, there was an intention behind the process. And this intention, it doesn't really necessarily mean that it was done properly or it was, done correctly. It just means that there was an idea to create a certain outcome and someone did something and that outcome is birth. You designed something. I'm trying to be as simplistic as possible because I'll go on to explain why this is important and how it helps me as a designer understand the implication of some of the things that I do. So in my line of work, you would have instances where you could be secluded to running tasks or activities, in an application like Figma, and you're creating boxes, putting colors, using typography to align the contents, adding images, just trying to make it look good, right? But deep down underneath all of that, there's a purpose for that design to be created. And most times is to communicate something or evoke an emotion. And so I have to take that seat as someone who is intentionally trying to produce an outcome and then walk through a process that can help me because it does get overwhelming. But I'll tell you about some of the other things that I've learned, while designing products for people. And if you look at my screen here, it says that design in a simple term just means to make something better for someone, right? And I'm sure based off of what I've been saying since you can type together. But again, apart from having colors and typography and images, is beyond just visuals or aesthetics, right? It's about solving real problems. It's about creating real value for real people, which is why I have to take that sit back and really look at who I'm building for and understand what is happening. Now, this is me as a designer. Don't forget that I also wear the hat of a founder or a business owner and entrepreneur. And if there are any entrepreneurs here, you would agree with me that without paying customers, it's not possible to say that you have a business unless you are doing pro bono or non-profit. But without paying customers, you don't have a business. But then again, if you want to get customers, you need to create value. So we can also say that without value, there are no customers. And in order to create value, you need to address a need, right? And one of the ways that you can address a need would be to create something that captures that value, which is in form of a product. In other cases, it could be a service, but for this particular session, we're talking about products. And I like how everyone listed out things ranging from journals to fans to calculators, right? These are all products. And what is it? What makes a product a product? Let me give you an example. There's a platform called adplist.org. And adplist.org was born during COVID. And their plan was to connect designers, entry level, mid level, whoever you are, to other people who might have opportunities or experiences that I can learn from. And so they put together a database. What was this database? A Google Sheet. In that Google Sheet, you had list of people, their roles, their current positions in the organizations they work with, their experience and all that, and then a link to their calendar, maybe Calendly. You could book them, and then once you book them, Calendly will link you to Google Meet or Zoom, right? Because Zoom was what was raining then, and that was what was going on, right? I would ask this question, and you can type it in the chat. At that point, do you think that they had a product? Just say yes or no if you think they had a product. But they were trying to solve a problem that allows designers on one hand to get access to other designers who might have this experience or opportunities that they're looking out for. So this could be things like having mock interview sessions. This could be things like if you're maybe having a career block, whatever it is, right? And that was how the whole process was born. But if you check out ADP list today they have a platform where you can create an account, onboard yourself, and then find mentors. And you can go as far as seeing the calendars of these mentors on the platform, and then eventually booking a slot on your calendar and having the call on their platform, right? The first question that I asked was if the initial process that happened during the lockdowns was a product, right? The answer is no. So if your guess was no, you're correct. What they had was a process. But in taking all these processes, turning them to, I mean, aligning them with the idea of what they really wanted to achieve and turning them into features, they were now put together, bundled to create what we have or what we call a product, right? And that's what we have today as ADP list. So they bootstrapped, they leveraged other existing tools, but they validated something and that became a product. Now, take note of this word that I just used, validate. It's a very important word, and I'll touch more on it, right? So, on a final note on this particular issue, you cannot build a business without paying customers or providing value, and you cannot provide value by without addressing real needs. And you need to have actual users, not just a tool or not just a process or not just a an idea that people can like you talk to people about, right? And I think that is essential. But in case you're wondering, oh, what does value mean? What are needs? These are just clear definitions that can help you understand, right? And a good example of the key item for today, which is product. The definition here says that a product is a solution that serves specific users in specific context, right? Specific users in specific context. I want you to hold on that, right? But at the same time, if you are running a business or if you're running a business, there's a mindset that I would like you to have. And I think it's a designer's mindset, which has helped me. And I know a lot of companies that have design founders who are actually doing a great job. One of them is Brancheski, the founder of Airbnb. And I'll tell you a bit more about him later, right? But as a business owner, um, I think a good mindset to have would be one where you work with or work for your customers in such a way that you see them as your employers or members of your board, because ultimately they're the ones who get to shape the outcome of your business. And by designing or by working with them at the core, you're able to figure out what needs they have, figure out what issues they have, and address those needs, which is what makes you relevant to them, right? So their problems become your problems. Um, their success are based on your decisions, right? Whatever they have as feedback or input shapes the future of your product or your service. It becomes your roadmap. And then you, rather than leaning on your assumptions or your wishful thinking, you actually get data that is pointing at their core needs, and then you use that to improve the product, right? I could go on and on about this, but let's talk about users, right? There's a difference between customers and users. So customers are for business, but then users are for the product, right? So as someone who is building or designing products that people want, you need to work with your intended users to learn from them and design around those insights rather than imposing your ideas on them, right? Something I've observed and also had my own fair share of experience from is where you have ideas and you just quickly want to build on that idea and you let it grow in your mind, you fantasize about it, and it's your idea. Now, don't get me wrong. After all, Steve Jobs says that, or he said, that the crazy ones are the ones who actually get to change the world, right? So you can have your ideas, but then if you are looking to design, remember there's an intention behind whatever it is you're doing. If you're looking to design an outcome based on that idea, you need to actually have a a moment of clarity around who and what you're designing, right? Who you're designing for and what you're designing, right? And in this case, we're designing for users in a specific context. So this means that you have to focus on meeting their needs. Remember, we already identified them. Focus on meeting their needs, learn more about who they are, and then understand why they have these needs and how you can turn some of the findings that you have into competitive advantages. And I'll explain how you can do this. There are some methods, there are some ways you can do that, and I'll explain that shortly. But something interesting that I've been thinking about recently, if you have an idea to do something, right, by all means, run and do it, especially if you have two things: capital, which is money, loose money lying around that you can actually invest in research and development, or information, meaning you have inside gist, or data that can give you an idea, or that can give you a better sense of clarity on what you're building, what you're designing, right? But in the early stages, or if you are building and you don't have capital, information is actually much more valuable, right? And I'm sure if there's anyone who has worked in an environment where products are being built, you would agree with me that information, insight can mean a lot in for especially for market movers. So there's a quadrant or a chart that has different types of companies. You have those who are disrupting with innovation, and you have those who are there's another word, I can't remember the other quadrant. You have those who are basically just trying to adapt or meet with the status quo, right? And so what sets those who are trying to just meet up with the status quo or maintain, the current state of things, and those who are disrupting, is usually information or insights. So you have data that nobody has. And fun fact, one of the reasons why OpenAI is as big as it is today is because of how much time and investment they spent on gathering data, right? And yes, some of the data was acquired through some funny means, but they actually took time to gather all of that data, and that is what they used to train their model, right? And now that they have way more users than they anticipated, they can continue to do that. So even with the money they have, they still need data. Now, um, one of the ways you can start to build your data is to learn, right? So in the process of designing, you start learning, and you should be able to learn, a few things, at least who you are building for, right? Remember, product is identifying a specific building for a specific user in a specific context. So who you are building for, why they need it, how are they currently solving the problem, right? How are they able to remember in the story of ADP list, what they were doing was using Google Sheets and connecting with Calendly and then Google Meet. That was how they were solving the problem. And so they were also focusing on the users or the people who were using whatever process they are put in place. As a matter of fact, they did not dictate the entire process. People just sort of figured out ways to make the most of it, and they were always asking for feedback. So the first thing they did was to list out the database, and people were like, "Oh, what if we could actually book their calendar?" Because whenever we reach out to them, yes, their their emails are there. They tell us, "Oh, they're not available for this time." We say, "Okay, what about this time?" They say they're not available, like that, like that. And then they ask the people to start dropping Calendly links, and people did that. Okay, you drop Calendly links, but we need a platform to use. Some people are not able to use Zoom, some people are not able to use, like, and they just started getting feedback from actual users who were having real problems with the process that they were benefiting from, right? So how are they currently solving the problem? And then what will make them switch, right? So if you know what issues they have and how they're able to, navigate these issues, you can walk around that, simplify it just a little bit, and then test it. So let me just quickly divert for or digress for a bit. my team and I worked on a tool called, or a product, or a book. Yeah, that's the book called the Product Launchpad, right? And in this book, there are different steps that take you from how to frame your idea, how to package it, down to testing or figuring out, who has the problem, and then what pain are they having. And then from there, you can now figure out ways in which they are currently solving the problem, and then finding out and how your alternative is better than their current solution. And then, having what we call the magic statement, or the magic selling, what would make them switch, right? So I'll touch more on that again later. But right now, I just want to move to something called design thinking. Now, I hope this is not too much, right? And I'll try to do my best to continue to dilute it as much as I can without it losing its essence. But design thinking is something that I think everyone should adopt. It's not just for designers, right? It's for everyone who cares. Let me use that word. It's for everyone who cares. So if you are solving a problem for someone, it means you care. And to a large extent, if you care, you should know all the things that I just listed in the previous slide, right? Know who you're solving for, what problem they have, and how you're currently solving it. But what design thinking does is that it guides you through the process of understanding, right, who your users are, and then articulating, what problem they have. So we have the empathize, which is understanding the users, and we have the define, which is articulating, based on the information you've gathered, what the core problem is. Now, taking all of that, you can quickly, if you have a team, right, because design thinking promotes collaboration. So in my line of work, as a product designer, I would work ideally in a team that has someone who is a software engineer, either back end, front end, or both. And there's a PM. There could be other designers, other researchers on the team. And we are coming together to digest the data, or the problem that we found, and then learn more about the context of the problem and the users. And then we are bouncing ideas of how we can quickly um, create an alternative to the current solutions, or the current ways that people are solving their problems. And then we bring all these solutions to a prototype. Now, a prototype is supposed to be something that is easy, easy and cheap, to get into the hands of users. So it's supposed to be a low budget, tangible version of the solution. And with this prototype, you can test, you can get feedback from users by simply asking them to, maybe simulating the experience, or getting them to share their thoughts as they interact with the prototype. Ask them what they think, ask them to think out loud, ask them to give you feedback, right? And then whatever it is that happens, you figure out whether the particular solution works, figure out what doesn't work, and then you iterate. So iterating means you use the feedback to improve. And I think that's self-explanatory. But this is design thinking in a nutshell. Now, there's a team of amazing people that I love so much, right? I know it's not tribe, it's not an effect. They're called Ideal, right? If you've heard of them, please, you can just do a thumbs up. And they are a design company. One of their most interesting stories to me is how they redesigned a shopping cart. Now, when you go to malls like ShopRite, Rene, you would see different designs of shopping carts. But that wasn't always the case. Initially, shopping carts were, I'm sure if you shop on an e-commerce website, when you look at the item, when you look at the top section, you see an icon, and you know that that's your cart. It's usually a very big vehicle. Let me use that word, because it was really big and it was massive. And there were so many challenges with it, from safety to how bulky it was, to how difficult it was to control, so many things. And so the Ideal team took up this challenge, and they used the design thinking to come up with an a new version or a new product in 5 days. What did they do? They paid attention to some of the complaints. Remember, I said things were bulky, things were they didn't feel safe, and they observed people. Like they took themselves into the supermarket and they just watched people, right? And one of the best ways to learn is to observe. One of the best ways to learn from users is to observe them. There was a period where I was genuinely curious about how Chowdeck operates. And so a friend of mine, we were hungry, we wanted to eat, but the curiosity overshadowed the hunger. And so we went to Mega Chicken and we placed an order, right, from Mega Chicken. And we observed where the Chowdeck people usually sit. And we saw what was happening. We placed the order in less than a minute. Somebody got up with the phone, went round to see if whatever it is that we ordered for was available, and then they told them to make the order. And the person came and sat back down. And then a few moments later, the person went back and then picked up the order from the counter and they just sat with it. Now, because we were there waiting, the next step of the process was supposed to be the dispatch coming to pick up the order. Ideally, you're supposed to be in your house waiting. But we were there and we're seeing it happen. And every minute that passed felt like an hour because I was like, the order is ready. And we're already at Mega Chicken. Don't forget we're hungry. But again, out of curiosity, we wanted to see the end-to-end process. And so we waited for about 15 minutes before a rider actually came. And then we saw the attendant, the child deck attendant speak to the rider and then give them the food and tell them to check their app for the address and everything. So as the rider was about to leave, we just blocked him and said, Bros, you go nowhere. Now food be that. And then we sat down with them and just started asking them questions around their process. And it was so exciting for me. Now, this was just something I did randomly. It wasn't as if I was on a project or working on anything. I just wanted to know how the process worked. And by observing, I gained so much, right? Now, back to our ideal people. In this particular instance or scenario, again, there were so many issues that based on complaints, but they also now paid attention and observed. And they did not just observe the shoppers, they observed the employees as well, right? And for me, I thought that was profound because they extended the bracket a bit. And it showed how even the shoppers were not happy, the employees rather were not happy with the way the cards were being handled, and so many other things that would go on to inform some of the ideas that they came up with. The next step was to define some of the key considerations that were to be made. One of them was child safety. Remember that with shopping carts, I'm sure you see some adverts, or you might even see it in supermarkets now. Children like to play with these carts. They see it as a vehicle, and some of them want to jump inside, do different things inside. So that was something that they could have only figured out because they were there. Initially, it didn't pop up. Then things like maneuverability, how easy is it for you to turn the wheels, move around, and like it or not, there were cases of theft. I found it surprising or shocking, but some homeless people see this as an easy way to get around. So that was something they had to consider. So the next step for them was to come up with ideas. Now, this is my favorite part about their process. No idea is stupid, and everybody contributes. Whether you are a receptionist, whether you're an accountant, like everybody on their team is a very lean team, by the way, but everybody on the team actually had something to share. And so they had sketches, they had cardboards, or wood. They came up with an actual prototype that they moved to a supermarket, and they gave people who were willing to move these things around, and they moved them around and they gave their feedback. And some of them said, nah, this is trash, I prefer the old one. Some of them said, it feels so much. I can hang my nylon bags on this side. I feel like I can put heavy things at the bottom without needing to push too much. Like different feedback came about. And so this was an interesting case study. There's a video on YouTube. I think everyone should watch it. right? And it just goes to show how the design thinking process was used to have a more human-centric approach towards the design for something that affects millions of people on a day-to-day basis. All right. Now this is where I share a bit of my story and how um, I was in a position where I thought I had hit something amazing, right? So a friend of mine told me about the problem that they had, and I just wanted to solve it. And I was so sure that, I could hack something together and give them to use and make their life easy. So I thought to myself, okay, how do I start? They needed something to manage their schedule, manage their time, have clients book them so that they can show up, receive payments on the same platform and move on. Initially, I thought there was a tool that existed. The closest that I could find was Calendly at the time. But we hacked something together, connected to Paystack. It was good to go, except one problem. They did not use it. In short, their problem was not even the tool. Their problem was that there was no traction. There was no there was no traffic. That was their problem. So I learned that they needed discoverability, not scheduling automation, right? And so after building what was in my head, a very rich, robust product with features, I found out nobody wanted it. But I started talking to other people. I expanded the scope. Remember the ideal team, they didn't just speak to customers or shoppers, they also spoke to the employees. And so, in talking to other people who did not even seem like they needed my product, I found that just listening to their problems and attempting to solve it gave me a new set of users, right? And I'll explain how that turned out. But remember, I said the keyword to take note of is validate. Validation is the most underrated metric, right? And I know metrics, when I hear metrics, when we talk about metrics, we think of numbers, things that have percentages and all. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are metrics, fine and good. But validation really means that there is a signal that says go or don't go, right? And validation means getting that feedback as quickly as possible, as cheap as possible, and then as fast as possible. Yeah, I already said as fast as possible. But there's a guy called Matty Kagan, and I just wrote this down because I enjoy listening to him talk. He's an engineer, product advocate, and he always speaks to how a lot of teams get over bloated or um, do more than they ought to do because they end up taking time to build things that people don't want. So his philosophy or his principle is start failing as quickly as possible, learn as quickly as possible. And then there's Brancheski, who I spoke about earlier, the CEO or founder of Airbnb. And he talks about building things that don't scale initially, right? We still have just a few more sessions to go. But before I talk about building things that don't scale, um, if you are validating the ways that you can make sure that you are on track to use things like data measures. So there's qualitative data, which is basically just the percentages that I spoke of. But there's also qualitative data, which are you can get them from interviews, you can get them from what people are saying or what people are exclaiming or feedback that people are giving. You can check app stores for reviews, you can check Twitter, right? Those are data points. Then the final data point will be competitive analysis, which is just market research that allows you to identify gaps and opportunities. Why this is important is because your ideas need to be backed by signals that tell you whether to go or don't go. And it's a proof that your idea isn't just good, but it is necessary, it is needed, right? And so back to building things that don't scale. Brancheski had, when they launched Airbnb, they had a lot of people sign up. And they had both homeowners, people who wanted to rent out their spaces, as well as customers who wanted to book the spaces on the platform. But guess what? People are not just booking. And the team was puzzled because they were amazing places, but people were not booking. And so they noticed that the pictures on the platform were not as impressive as the places themselves. So what did his team do? He and his team, they went and personally photographed every listing on the platform in a way that was appealing. And this improved their booking rates. It was so crazy. And they didn't sit down to say, oh, let's take it. Let's look for a feature, an automation tool. Let's write some code to, push this. No, they went and spoke to their users and they had an idea what they thought the problem was. And so they did this for, I think, 10 homes, 10 places, right? Again, we're talking about building things that don't scale. Now, this process, imagine if Airbnb is still doing that today, that they had to come to Nigeria to snap every listing that was going to go on their platform. They'll not be here. But what they did, that exercise of saying, hmm, if we take better pictures, we might get more bookings. That is called a hypothesis. And hypotheses are meant to be tested or proven. And so they ventured out in a very small batch or small scale and tested that hypothesis, and it worked. And because they saw that it worked, they now have to figure out ways to make it scale. But imagine now we know that it worked, but imagine if they had started building a tool that could enrich images or enhance images or do something, and it didn't work, but they've already invested money into building something. But how much did it cost them to hire a photographer? I don't think they hired a photographer. I think they took the pictures themselves. So they probably spent maybe less than $200 all in all, as opposed to, hiring engineers, spending thousands of dollars to build, and then you find that it's not working. So the point here is that you should try things that don't scale at a very minimal so that you can measure results, right? And I'll give you an example that I experienced as well. There was while working on Schedule Me, which is my platform, the one I mentioned, um, instead of getting consultants who needed to manage their bookings, I ended up with a different set of users. One of them was a space. The space needed to be booked, and it wasn't Airbnb kind of booking. It was just book for a couple of hours, show up, use your booking slots, and go. There was another one called it was an exhibition, and their image is in the on this slide. The exhibition was experiential, meaning that you couldn't just walk in, you couldn't just buy a ticket and walk in. So platforms like Tix or Eventbrite would not work for them, but they needed something like what we had. And so I sat down with the person who organized the exhibition, and we thought through different ways. Me, I was like, my platform cannot handle this. So, but the person was like, I just want people to pick a time. Like, they should just pick it. That the time they pick is their ticket. And so we I went back with my team at the time and we just found a way to enhance the process manually. So what we did was that when people book a time on the calendar, we send them emails that say, this is your ticket manually. And we could do that because it was just averaging 50 people in a day, we get two bookings. Some other days we get one booking, some other days no booking. It was easy to do. We didn't have to start writing some code or start creating another system entirely, right? So that was easy. And this helped me to drive home that point of understanding that not every solution requires high-end technology. I've met people who have an idea and immediately they're looking for a designer or developer. And remember I said validation is very important. Even without having a designer or a developer, you can actually validate your idea and even get people to pay. And there are ways to do it, especially now that there's AI. In an upcoming session that we're going to have, we'll talk through how to build proof of concepts with some of these AI tools for free, right? And that will give anyone here ideas if you're building something, if you're trying to tinker with an idea on what to do. Before I move on, Ikemba, please, how am I doing with time? I'm
So far
almost,
so good. So far so good. As long as you are about rounding up,
yeah, I'm almost done.
you can take questions.
Yeah. So, just to go over some of the things that I might have already touched on while speaking. Again, we need to focus on addressing real pain points as opposed to falling in love with the features. You need to pay attention to the expected outcomes and design with the intent of shaping that outcome, right? So common frustrations that I've seen are, products that don't have user validation or market validation. And those two are different. User validation would be that a user or someone, a customer would consider using it, but they might not necessarily want to pay for it. But market validation is saying that, okay, there are signals in the market that show that this is a need that must be addressed. But above all, for me, I'll say this here, I hope this is a safe space. The best form of validation is money. Somebody must be willing to say, shut up and take my money. Um, so yeah, moving on. What I would say you should um if you want to if you're building something and you want to um validate, or if you want to make sure that you're on the right track, three ways, right? The first one would be to validate the problem. Make sure that it's something that is a real pain that is worth solving. And the best way to do that is to talk to people. Remember what IDEO did. Get involved with the process. Observe. If you can't speak to people, observe behaviors. Understand not just what problems they have, how are they currently mitigating or solving that problem. That would even give you ideas. Like, you don't need to think of ideas. That would give you ideas. And then you can qualify the pain level in your interviews, right? If you are able to build up a quick prototype, you can measure the current process against your solution and ask users which they feel is better. Ask potential customers which works. Ask them, would you pay for a solution that does this? If they say, it depends on how much, that's not your customer. If you hear, if you ask, would you pay for this? This is your problem, right? This is your problem. If something, in fact, if you have something that does this, and does that, and takes away this problem, will you pay for it? And they say, oh, yes, that's your customer, right? So after you've gotten that problem validation, you build a validation vault by having quantitative evidence that you can collect. So things like building a landing page and a form that can give you a wait list, right? Wait lists are very important. As a matter of fact, there's a tool called Dropbox. And the way Dropbox launched was they used a wait list. They didn't have a solution, but they created a landing page and a form that asked people to indicate interest, whether or not they would pay for this service or they would use this service. And people filled, and they got over 1,000 submissions in a day. People all saying yes. That's how they knew they were onto something, right? You can also gather qualitative insights. Remember, you are interviewing customers. You are paying attention to social media, credible social media posts, right? You are looking at competitors. Um, no idea is unique. No idea is in isolation. I used to be afraid or worry before that if I have an idea and I tell somebody, oh, they'll use the idea. But I'm learning now that one of the signs to show that you have a good idea is that somebody else has that idea, which means that you're onto something. Now, where there's a differentiator, where there's real impact is in execution. So you have the idea, this person has the idea. Are you able to run with the idea? Or is the other person also able to run with the idea? And then how well are you able to execute? Right. So it's not just about having ideas. Ideas are a dime a dozen, right? It means they're cheap. Sorry, a kobo, a dozen. Yeah. That makes me feel better. Then the final one is test early and often. Fail as fast and cheap as possible, right? And get feedback quickly. When you get feedback, refine. Um, if I want you to remember anything, it'll be this: you are a designer, right? Whether you have the title or not. Your customers are your employers, and whatever success they have should be driven by or should drive your decisions. Whatever outcomes they have should drive your decisions. Whatever they hope to achieve should be what drives your decisions, right? And again, information beats capital. Having access to data insights is better than having money, because you can throw money at problems or at things and the money just goes down the drain. But if you have insight, knowledge, or inside gist, it's easier for you to know where to focus. Um, yeah. Then build with your users, not just build for them. Don't impose your ideas on them. Build with them. Get their insights or their inputs. Ask them what they think about what you're doing. Ask them what they feel is missing. As a matter of fact, you don't even need ideas. You don't even need to be, forgive me for using this phrase, you don't need to be that creative. People will tell you what their problems are if you just listen, right? And then lastly, on scaling things that don't, building things that don't scale, rather, manual processes will teach you what to automate. So not everything requires a developer engineer to start building a product, or no, there are things that you can, processes that you can put in place to solve an immediate problem, and then validate that problem before you now see that, oh, there's a gap. I was solving this problem for 2 people. Now 10 people want it. I can't meet all 10 of them. I need something. Bam. You can now invest in a solution or a product that can help you. If you invest in something that is low budget or cheap, and then you see that, oh, from 10, getting to 100, I can't deal with 100. 100 is a lot. You know that it's time to now invest more efforts or resources. Um, I'll leave you with this. And again, thank you, Kima, for putting this together. And I just thought to show some appreciation and give a an exclusive 50% discount of the product launchpad to everyone who's on the call. And in addition to that, you'd also get a free 45 minutes session with me for everyone who purchases the product launchpad. And during this session, I'll basically get to hear about what problems you're solving, what ideas you're tinkering with, and give you guidance if you're looking for how to segment or create a customer base that you can focus on, or even figure out if your current customer base are who you should be targeting. I will do that. Remember, building products requires you to pay attention to specific users in a specific context. You can't serve everybody. You shouldn't serve everybody, right? So this is going to go on. If you see the link, you can click the link. The promo code will be shared in the chat. The link will also be shared in the chat. So you can quickly take advantage of that offer now. The product launchpad, I don't think I gave enough context to that, but it contains part of what I was mentioning about the validation vault, right? And so there are validation methodologies in it. There are practical frameworks and then templates or checklists, right? Included there. And there's also step-by-step guides that you can use to start practicing some of these things. Very simple and popular methods or frameworks that you might already know about, things like the mom test, right? Things like um, the 7-second rule, things like assumption validation or assumption testing, or even assumption autopsies. Like, you've made an assumption, it did not work, you could go back to the assumption and revisit it and figure out why. And even if if all of this sound too technical, you can always reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to share, walk you through whatever concepts you are dealing with. Then yeah, remember, the market will always teach you what to build if you listen. People will tell you their problems. Um, I write about my design journeys or my design stories on my Substack blog, which is Empowered Designer, right? You could just also look for me on by typing my name, Jeffrey Abdulateef-Adoga. or you could follow the link. It will be pasted in the chat as well. And you can also check us up at urbaneffect.net. And if you're interested in connecting on LinkedIn, please do not hesitate to send a message and I will be happy to connect as well. Thank you so much, everyone.
Please give Jeffrey a
Over
round of
to you,
applause,
Ikemba.
guys. Please, 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 guys. Yes, 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 yes. Pump the energy, pump the energy. Show this man some love. If you got any value at all, if you got any value at all, show this man some love. Let him know that your mind was blown. Type it in the comment section. Exactly the practicality of the insights he shared. Jeffrey, I'm not even gassing you up. Like this is normally you be done, but this is a notch higher. Well done. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am really I told you guys that tonight was going to be Jeffrey, I think you're still sharing your screen. I told you guys that tonight was going to be exciting. Yeah, I told you guys tonight was going to be exciting. I see Tejiri. Tejiri says, thank you, Jeffrey. That was insightful. Nkechi says, thank you. Thank you all so much, guys. Jeffrey is going to post the links that he has spoken about in the comments. Yes, Amabel says it was exciting. It was really exciting. And now we're going. Oh, sorry. Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. This was really insightful. Awesome stuff. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Your feedback is well appreciated. When Jeffrey was speaking and emphasizing on, you don't have to struggle to look for idea or struggle to build the product, struggle to build a product people want. Just listen to the market, listen enough, and they'll tell you their problems. It reminded me of something that a mentor said that Babalawo in a sense, if you are intuitive enough, if you listen enough, and it also brings to mind the conversation that Jeffrey and I were having a while ago when I said that any principle in business that you cannot apply to every other area of your life, you should trash it. So tonight has been really insightful. We're going to take some questions now. If you have any questions, or then you want to drop them in the comment section. If anything stuck out for you, you also want to drop them in the chat box so that we could just all be refreshed, because I know that there's some people that joined along the line. Jeffrey, I would start with the first question that I have tonight, which is, how do you balance user needs with business goals when designing a product? I know that you have, in the course of your session, you had said that the best validation for you, the best validation is not user validation, but market validation. Money, give me my money. So how do you balance that? How do you balance user needs with market with business goals? Because at the end of the day, what we find in the market is that there are people that just are out to make money, you know. So on one hand, there are people that are just very technical and they're just design, they're just no, I want to, but they don't have any idea how what they're building is useful. Sometimes it's even bogus or bloated, because of too much functionality. And then there's, on the other hand, where there are people that are just all about the money. How do you balance this? Let's start with that question.
Hmm. Um, it's a good question, honestly. And the most correct answer for Silicon Valley. But it's a question that can afford to, you know, pay attention to the market, or it's a business that is in business, that can afford to pay attention to certain things. And so if by default you are already in that headspace of hustling, trying to hustle people or hustle yourself, you would burn yourself, you will burn out. Um, if you remember the early statistics that I shared, a lot of products that get launched is the way the business is structured from day one would be a good a measure, a good enough measure, or a good how do I explain this now? It's like having a superpower. There's something called they're design-led founders, they're product-led founders, right, in the startup ecosystem. And you find that most of the companies that have design-led founders, two of which I'm very proud of. One is Brancheski, Airbnb. Another one's current valuation, especially since they did the IPO. Figma has found a way, Figma leveraged community. They understood that designers needed a tool that was made for them, by them. And that is their motto. And they doubled down on it. Now, it's not the easiest of things to do, honestly, especially if you don't have maybe insight or money. So what I'll say is start from somewhere, and usually the best place to start from is paying attention or paying for it. It costs something. There are some platforms that I've had to subscribe to, even though I've canceled my Steers subscription. But I remember during the election period, Steers was one of the platforms that gave, credible insights to what was going on. There are other business platforms that you could subscribe to that give you tangible insights, or just even getting reports from companies like Deloitte, KPMG. They publish annual reports on different things. Even Nigerian companies now are starting to do that. So data is easily accessible, but you must pay attention to it or you pay for it. And so if you have data, it's easier to focus on the areas that are maybe signaling a user need, and then looking for, if your business, remember the superpower that I spoke of, if your business now has a way of, or has a culture, or an initial philosophy of paying attention to user needs, you can then feed that, and it's sort of like an ecosystem that is being created. So you have the business that is focused on customer centricity, and then you have the data and the insights that is gotten from actually paying attention to the users and getting their needs. And so the needs and the goals merge. Like for me, it might sound very abstract, but at the end of the day, like every principle, they lie in abstraction, right? So at the end of the day, if your mindset, if you are operating from a place of hustling, just trying to get something out there, you're just trying to prove something to myself. Yeah, I don't know that if you'd go that far, but if you are really obsessed with the people you are building for, I think I know rather, and there's proof that you would actually build something that people want and in turn pay money for, and that would be the ultimate driver of your business. I hope that gives some clarity to the question.
Yes, it does. It does. And I'm sure for the participants, the audience, it also does. Thank you very much. I would like to say again that questions, if you have any questions, you could use the hand raised option feature to so that we know that you have a question. You could just use you could just use the chat box and drop the questions there, and I'm sure Jeffrey will get to them. So Jeffrey, another question that I really happy. I mean, with that one response, you pretty much dusted almost all the questions that I have, especially speaking
Mhm.
to um empathy, because I wanted to ask you what role do you think that empathy plays in creating products that resonate with users? But you've already said that you've
Yeah.
already touched on that in your last response. But the question that I wanted to ask is how often should product teams test and iterate, to ensure that they're meeting or their product is meeting real needs, real user needs.
Units. Yeah. Yeah. I would say as frequently as possible. And I wish I'm trying not to go very, very technical, just so that I can be considerate to the audience because my again to a large extent obsessed about building products. And so I've been part of conversations, I've had direct conversations with people like I mentioned Marty Kagan, and he and his team, they are called the Silicon Valley Product Group. And he and his team go around the world, teaching people about something called a product operating model. And one of the things that stood out to me was how they keep emphasizing on the fact that the best companies, the companies that do well, they ship every day. Shipping means because you have to first of all deploy a code that you've just worked on in an environment where it is no longer in your control, right? Yes, you've done some internal testing, bug fixing and all, but you release it to the world. The world is not now users don't know your code. They don't know what they just open their app and try to do whatever they feel is nice, and then they encounter issues. And that's a good thing actually. It
Mm,
means that first of all, you're offering enough value for somebody to be willing to go through the painstaking process of interacting with your products. It could be clunky, it could be
mm,
delightful, whatever the case, they are sure willing. And once you have that, you need to impute or introduce ways of getting feedback, right? So I'm sharing that because if you are able to ship quickly and in your process, you now introduce or include ways of getting feedback as quickly as possible, it makes it easier for you to know what works, what doesn't work, and what to focus on. But if that's not the case, I think what might end up happening would be that you would focus on building longer, and you would get caught up with your ideas. You get caught up in your head about what you think your idea should be. And if anyone here is like me, I can be a perfectionist sometimes, and I just want to make sure that it is like it is there. But the truth is, when you're solving problems, nobody cares whether you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it or it's perfect to you. What they care about is, does it work? Does it solve my problem? Does it cure a pain that I'm having? So to answer your question, I'll say as quickly, as often as possible, right? And as much as you ship. So get feedback and have feedback mechanisms that allow um, customers to share their. Let me even give a straightforward example. There are some apps that when you use almost every day, they'll ask you, "Do you like our app?" You say yes. They say, "Okay, you like our app? Please rate it." Or if you take a screenshot on some apps, they'll tell you, they'll ask you if you want to give a feedback. Like they're trying to make it as quickly, as easy rather as possible for you to give them feedback. And in doing that, they're able to learn without having to invest time and energy in observing everybody because they can't observe everybody. Yes, they can send out teams to the field or do a focus groups testing and all that, but the best form of feedback is when your product is in the hands of a user in the user's natural habitat. If you can find a way to spy on them, maybe with a binocular or sniper rifle, fantastic. But when they're in that space, anything that they do and they encounter an error is fresh. You can get feedback from them. Again, I don't want to be too technical, but to answer the question, right, very often. And the best way to do that is by getting feedback so that that feedback can guide the iteration. If you don't get feedback, sorry, I'm speaking PG like this, but it flows. If you don't have feedback, there's nothing to iterate on, right? So that's what I would say.
Awesome, fantastic, fantastic. One last question, and this one is off script, right? Um, how does this relate to the person that is creating a movement? How does this apply to the person that is offering a service? How does it all apply to? Because a lot of the instances that you've shared, a lot of the examples that you've given had to do with products, whether they are
You know, see the
physical
flyer.
products like the cards, the IDO cards, or their tech product like Schedule Me, Airbnb. How do they, how does it apply to them? Because I know that there's a cross section of, there are
Yeah.
cross section in our audience. Not everybody's techie, even though we all use tech. So if you could speak to that, I think that would really be beneficial.
Yeah. Um, so honestly, there was a period where I was very much interested in something called service design. Something called service design. I tried to take some courses on it, but reason why was because I saw some similarities between product design and service design. So, for example, in product design, you can create something called an information architecture that lets you understand how the user of your product can find certain things, right? This could be as simple as, I have a website and I want people to find events that are happening today on the website. I want them to be able to, it should be located somewhere. Some people can say, oh, let's put it under about us. Some people can say, let's put it under contact us. But then ultimately, you learn where to put it by knowing or understanding human behavior, right? But in the same vein, in service design, there's also flows, right? There's also location mapping. There are also ways that you can design a process and the operations are, sorry, Kim, I don't know if you are speaking to me, but okay, okay. I thought you were done talking to me.
No, no,
In
no, please go on.
there are processes and operations as well, that can be mapped out. And when that is done, you can visualize how people would use or interact with whatever service you're offering. And what that does is that it gives you an idea of where improvements can be made, especially if you have a feedback loop. And feedback loop could be customer focused or not. So, for example, in a restaurant, you don't need feedback to tell when, people, when there's over, what's that word now? When you're overcrowded or overbooked. Let's say you just launch a restaurant and you invite everybody, and then you see that the place is filled up and you don't have enough food, you don't have enough tables. You can then say, okay, you know what? We don't want to keep doing this because since we launched in July, every night we have the same issues. Now we are introducing a process where everyone has to make a reservation if you want to eat our food and if you really care about us. Make a reservation. Tell us when you're coming, what time, if you're coming with people, and you introduce that. And you can get an instant feedback on whether it's working or not by the amount of people that register or fill, and then show up. Yeah, you might get some people who don't bother and then show up, and how you choose to then optimize that process is still back to service design. So my point is, you can introduce processes or steps to your existing process and pay attention to whatever feedback is gotten, right? Now, there's also the kind of feedback that can come from listening to your customers, and those are quality based or experiential type of feedback. So, for example, if you want to know how everybody that came into the restaurant found it, how they found the service, how they found the interaction with your staff, how they found the dish that they ordered, how they found the cleanliness of the place, you can then introduce a questionnaire or a survey to get feedback. And whatever you get from that feedback can then help you to improve the process. So I spoke of two things, feedback loops, the ones that don't require user input or customer input, and the ones that do require customer input. So those are some similarities between service design and product design. But like I said, I am not a service designer, but in my brief study, this is something that I observed. I know that there's something called Lean Six Sigma, right? And they basically out is a an operations process that outlines how to identify areas where there might be a bottleneck in your process, or areas where there might be waste, or areas where there might be unnecessary processes, just different things, and then how to um, enhance the existing process without spoiling everything. So I would advise you, if you're interested, I recommend taking a look at Lean Six Sigma or Six Sigma. Yeah, the same thing.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Um, I don't know about you guys, but tonight has been neat. Jeffrey Jeffrey came ready for us. Jeffrey came ready for us. So thank you, Jeffrey.
So are there any
I'm not
questions from
sorry, say that again.
people?
Yeah. I was just going to ask if there are
Okay.
any questions from the audience. If there are no questions, then I have a question for the audience. What stood out for you most from tonight? Put it in the comment section. Put it in the comment section. What stood out for you most from tonight? What was the highlight? What did Jeffrey see that's caused an epiphany for you, that scattered your head and said, really? So this is how this thing, I never saw it like that before. I never quite looked at it like that before. What was it? Share in the comment section. Share in the chat box rather. Share in the chat box. Validation. Let's take some of the comments. Yeah, Anita, this is how you know people that were taking notes. This is how you know people
Yes.
are taking. So Anita says validation, most underrated metrics, just to qualify the metrics, success metrics, validation, getting feedback as fast as possible. Yes, signals that say don't go or go. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. I trust that in your career, in your own journey is you find a way to apply this this principle validation. Anybody else wants to go? Anybody else wants to go? Anita, if there's anything else that stuck out for you, you also feel free to share.
That was not me. That was not me. That was the came.
Joshua
But yeah,
says, Babalawo that says, yes, so
yeah.
Babalawo that says,
But the
feel
following
free.
part, I agree.
Listening to people, yeah, you have to be intuitive. Listen, whether it's sales or marketing you're doing, whether you're building a product, whether you're leading a team, literally listening to people, gives you an idea of how to solve their problems, and it makes you. Let me give you a hack in leadership. If you're convening a meeting, just sit back and listen to your team talk, and when everybody has dropped their idea, you just pick, summarize everything, and they'll be like, these guys this babe, her head did, yeah, So Babalawo that says, yeah, Tejiri says, Tej says learn while designing. Absolutely. Be agile. That's it. That's just it. Learn while designing. Learn while designing the solution. You know, learn while designing the solution. Amazing stuff. I mean, so much value. I'm really glad that you guys were paying attention. I'm glad that you guys were, we're learning, and I'm excited to see how you put these things to, I'm excited to see how you put these things to use. Thank you so much. Just a reminder that Jeffrey gave us a special discount on his product launchpad products. So the link is still in the chat box, seller.com/get-launchpad. If you want to get it, please get it. Because you are part of this webinar, you have a special discount, so get that. And if you get that, you're also getting, in addition to that, 45 minutes consultation with Jeffrey, free of charge. And you can pick his brain for 45 minutes. You can ask him anything with regards to whatever you are building, whatever you're currently working on, whether it's exciting, whether it's challenging. And trust me, you would leave that session with a lot of clarity. You leave that session with literally the blueprint to take the next step, to launch whatever you are doing or to scale it. Thank you once again, Jeffrey. I think it's been amazing. I think it's
Thanks,
been
Ikemba.
amazing.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't take this at all for granted. Please, once again, um, okay, Bridget says, Anita says, wow, thank you very much. Yes, 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 yes. Click on the link and go and get it tonight. Um, Bridget says, hypotheses are meant to be tested. Absolutely, absolutely. This definitely stuck out to me in a new and practical way. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff, awesome stuff. Um, just to, as we come for landing, just to say that this webinar was brought to you by Lifeort Solutions. Lifeort Solution is a strategy management firm. We help visionaries, teams, and businesses to clarify their vision, optimize their operation, and build sustainable and scalable ventures and businesses. You can check us out at lifeort.ng. You can check us out at lifeort.ng just to learn more about what we do and how we help our clients. My name is Ikemba Johnson. I'm the lead strategist for Lifeort Solutions, and um, it's been my pleasure to anchor or to host the webinar for tonight. This is episode 4 of our Build to Last webinar series. We host this webinar series every month, and everyone is always better than the last. It's been exciting since we started from the first episode up until now. We're going to be having another one this very month because this one was supposed to be for September, but we couldn't have it on the last Friday of September. It's usually on the last Friday of every month. So we're going to be having another one this very month. And that one focuses on customer retention. We're doing that just to be able to help product-led businesses or services, especially as we enter the season, as we enter the season for seasonal sales. November, you have Black Friday, you have Mobile Monday. In December, you have the December/sales, Christmas sales, and all of that. So look out for that, and keep tabs with us to see what exciting thing we're working on. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good evening. God bless you.
Thanks so much, Ikemba. Thanks, everyone.